into the center of the dying light. Claim it, make it rich, revitalize it till you're purified. Taking pretty pictures just to rip them up and close your mind. And it's such a waste to sit and hate when you got them on your side. Can you make the res roll back?
So my name's Monique PYM. I'm the front woman of a band called Reliqa. So we have an album coming out on May 31st. It's called Secrets of the Future. Depending on if you're in the future or not when you're listening to this, this interview, it may already be out, it may not, but May 31st is when it will be in your ears, courtesy of Grayscale Records and Nuclear Blast.
Beautiful. That was a fantastic intro. Thanks for that. So May the 31st is only about 3 weeks away, mate. So how are you
telling me? I'm terrified.
Are you excited? Are you nervous? You're anxious? You couldn't give a shit? Like, what sort of feelings are going on?
Oh man, it's all of the above, really. I'm terrified. Like this is the longest record that we've ever released, because given the landscape, like a lot of people listen to shorter form material these days, and we've tried to honor that through our singles. But it'll be really interesting to see who latches on to this full 52-minute experience. And experience is one of the words for it, because it is quite a diverse album. But I'm so excited. Like I think that this album, it feels like we're sitting on a precipice right now. And once we release this album, I think it's going to open up a whole lot of doors. So yeah, like let's just see what happens. We're taking it one day at a time.
Well, I got to tell you, I had to listen to it before I did the questions up for this interview, and I let it run through twice at 52 minutes. So I went for 104 minutes in my household because it was that bloody good.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really very impressive. Very good.
I'm so glad you like it.
So in the modern age, mate, like, how do you actually measure the barometer of success in an album? Like, is it Spotify numbers? Is it comments? Is it likes? Like back in the old days, someone would ring you and say, that was fucking great. But nowadays, how do you measure it these days?
It's a really good question, and I don't think it's one that has a correct, succinct answer. Everyone measures success in their own sort of unique way. I mean, there's even charting to consider these days, like when you have a record, and I'm very curious to see what happens and where we land in that sense. I think we can all like get so caught up in in the numbers of it, and of course those are so important, especially when you're a label band. We will definitely be considering that with we'll be taking a lot of stock of that, of course. But at the same time, like success of an album can also just mean that it's like, to us, I think our album will be successful if we have opened our audience a lot, if it opens those doors like I'm talking about. So if we look back a year from May 31st and notice that we have been playing amazing shows, we've been reaching the right people, we've had tons of people, wanting to learn more about us and engage with not only our content, but our live shows and things like that. And you can see a tangible difference between the release of an album and say the release of the next album. If we see growth in many different ways through our live shows, through our numbers, through the kind of interactions that we have on a day-to-day basis, then we'll know that it was successful. I think I think you got to measure that success in a couple of different ways to really know.
I think you're actually being a little bit too modest there, mate, because all those things you were talking about, you've already got it. Like, you guys are the darlings of Australian music at the moment. Like, it's gonna be hard to go further from there. But like I say, from what I've heard, I think you can. Like, it's gonna knock a few people the fuck out.
You're so right. I mean, I really appreciate that. Like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, these shows that we've been playing in the past 12 months have been nothing short of surreal. And I'm hoping that, yeah, I mean, it's not only bigger on the scale of how many people you're playing to, but yeah, like we really want to get out and even see a couple of new cities. Like, I mean, for example, like the next thing that we want this album to take us global. So hopefully, if we see the Northern Hemisphere next year, like we'll be on to a winner, and at like crossing my fingers, like hoping that this happens. But like, it looks like we've got all the systems in place to make it happen, which is really exciting.
Very
Just
cool.
when now, yeah.
Matter of when. But we've been dancing around this from the start of the interview, mate. But Let's get into the meat and bones of it. Like, tell us about the album from a musical point of view and what you were going for with it.
Well, it's something that honors how diverse and open-minded we are as people. I think the four of us, we have such different life experiences and different influences, musical tastes, and that's something that we've always tried to hammer onto through our music, and tried to sort of keep making records that we want to hear, ones that we want to listen to, and things that feel representative of us as people, not just as artists, but as people as well. So that's something that we've really remained true to on this album. And I mean, I'm only speaking from myself here, but I think that we've sort of captured the right formula for it now, because we're not only like on our I Don't Know What I Am EP, we sort of threw everything at the wall and we just went pretty crazy with it, but this album exercises a lot of restraint, and I think that that's really cool, because it shows that I think it shows that we've matured, you know, as people and as artists, and it's also shown that, like, you know, we know how to write now in a way that services the song and services the wider product, rather than zooming in on parts and kind of making each part perfect and things like that. And ultimately, I think the one word that captures this album is diversity or open-mindedness. There's so many different sounds on there. Ultimately, we call it progressive metalcore, but that progressive is the kicker. The progressive means that we've taken metalcore and we've sort of drawn in a whole lot of different influences, sounds and styles and things from other places. And so hopefully there should be something for everyone on there, you know, something for the pop fan, something for the rap fan, hip hop fan, like, and then also, of course, staying true to our progressive metalcore roots. Hopefully people still love us for that.
Fantastic. Now, you've released the singles Killstar, Terminal, and Dying Light. So are they a good overall sonic representation of what you expect?
I think so. I think there's there was definitely a logical move behind those three being the singles, because they do hit three very different corners of the album. I saw, I think, a YouTube comment this morning when I was taking a look at the like feedback to Dying Light, because it's only at the point of this chat, it's only been out for like 24 hours. So I was having a look, and someone said something along the lines of like all of these three singles have been like so different. Like, it was talking about how each of them like hits different territory, and I think that's absolutely true. And I think that every song on the album from this point on, because there are 12 songs, there's a lot of territory that we've covered, has something in common with one of those three singles. You know, whether it's got that sort of high shine, modern, like sort of like almost a stadium rock vibe that Terminal has, whether it's got that techie, sludgy heaviness that Killstar has, or whether it's got the attitude and the almost more like dark and dirty, like sort of like unpolished vibe of Dying Light. So all those three hit some different territory that I think each song on the album covers to some extent.
Yeah. Now, the press release refers to Secrets of the Future as the band taking a daring and dexterous step into a brand new chapter. Would you agree with that statement?
I think that's Janine working her magic.
She weaves magic god, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's brilliant. She really is, isn't she? And I would agree, I think. Without sounding cocky, you know, I think
she said it, you're just agreeing.
What was the question? Sorry.
So did you agree with the statement that you are taking a daring step? I
think so. Yeah, definitely. It's we're all about taking risks here at Camp Reliqa. I think that's we during the writing of the process of this album, we needed to build not only a lot of trust within ourselves, but like that trust is going to extend with our audience as well. Particularly sort of releasing a song like Terminal as the debut from this campaign. No one had heard anything from Reliqa since I Don't Know What I Am, which was 2022. And then we sort of went, I mean, not underground. We played some amazing shows in that time, but when it comes to releasing music, we went underground and we sort of tucked away for a little while. So coming out with Terminal was such an interesting thing, because people had to sort of trust the process a little bit. Like, we placed a lot of faith in our audience to be like, yes, this is quite different, but like, don't worry, there's more where that came from, you know, like that's why we dropped Killstar after that as almost a safety blanket to sort of be like, don't worry, we still got our progressive.
We're still us.
We're still techie, we're still us. But the leap between Terminal and Killstar was sort of like a trust fall, I think, between us and our audience. It's like, that one by the time we caught them and we realized that like they were at the end of that trust fall, they hopefully could sort of understand that we are now taking risks with this album, and we are going to like explore some new territory. Stay with us, you know, bear with us, and see what you think, because once we release this album, it's no longer ours, it's theirs, it's yours. So that trust and that that trust and that risk taking is a very important part of who we are and the album as a whole.
Mm-hmm. I actually think, if anything, it's shown increased confidence and maturity with the band. Like, considering your last EP stated, "I don't know what I am," and on this album, "The Secrets of the Future." Like, you've come a long way in 12 months.
You're absolutely right. Like, and I'm so glad that you see that, because that was a huge part of our identity as well. And even like visually, you know, like through like the aesthetics of the album, like we've come a long way, and we want to show people who we are, and that we've matured a lot, and that we do know what we are now. Like while it's still without a label, because it's very difficult to, I mean, the label we call it is progressive metalcore, but even still, it doesn't completely capture who we are genre wise. So while we are still not knowing what we are in terms of label, we know what we are now in that diversity and that identity, like the diversity and the not being able to label is the label in a way. Like, I know that it's a little bit meta in that sense, but we really embraced that as a part of who we are.
Yeah, cool. Now we're going to have to wind this up because somebody was late to this today, but I've got one question that I'm really, really interested to know the answer to, that I've got to ask you. Like, I read an interesting quote from the band where you said that your songwriting style shifted in 2023 when you started writing this album. Like, but was that a noticeable shift at the time? Did you sort of sit back and go, "Wow, this is different," or did it take until the end of the cycle, be looking back on it and sort of when the music's come out, and that's when you realized it was different?
It actually was a very tangible thing at the time, because I was terrified by what we were doing, because we used to write in kind of a very isolated way. You know, each one of us would have our own contribution, and we'd kind of do it sort of away from each other, and like just sort of eventually we'd have a song and it would be packaged up, and that's cool. It does have our own little bits of identity along the way, but it was written in a very remote sense. But this time with the captained by our dear friend and producer Kris, we sort of took intentional strides into experimental territory for songwriting, because it was really helpful to have him as an outsider perspective, to be able to sort of say, here's what I think's working, here's what I think's not working, can we try this? And we'd be like, okay, great. So yeah, like, I mean, we wrote in a way that was way more for feel than for parts for this album, like more for like the emotional territory that you traverse when you're writing an album. And I mean, for example, like I had never written on pen and paper, but this time I did. I sort of like set a challenge for myself to kind of scroll away and to get something out that felt authentic for the moment, not perfect, you know, like, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to my lyric writing. But so instead, I really tried to like exercise this strategy of like imperfection. And funnily enough, some of those vocals that are in that little notebook, they ended up pretty much word for word on the album, which is, I did not expect that, but it's kind of magical looking back on that and having the gift of hindsight and saying, yeah, that really did work out, this experimental style. So we'll definitely be trying that again in the future.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have to wrap it up now, Monique, but it's been a pleasure talking with you. At least I got some questions left over next time I talk to you. But
of course, always a pleasure, Kris. Thank you.
Secrets of the Future is out May the 31st. And like I say, I'm not pissing in anyone's pocket here. It blew me away this morning. It was very, very quality piece of work, mate. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Step into the center of the dying light, claim it, make it retrieve, vitalize until you're purified. Taking pretty pictures just to rip them up and close your mind. And it's such a waste to sit and hate when you got them on your side. Can you make the res roll back?